Deep Threat Sports Network. We're here once again to talk to you about one of the greatest sporting events in the world. Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. But for those of you new to college football, if you're just now listening to us, because I know some of you guys are maybe new viewers, the college football regular season has ended, but now it gets really good. Now we're talking bowl season. We're talking the playoffs. From Friday up until January 20th, we've got bangers. Left and right from different conferences, from everywhere. This is the best of the best. These are teams that won at least half of their games. So these teams are proven winners. And it's going to go up until January 20th when we have the national championship at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, which is probably going to be a heck of a game. But before we even get into the playoffs, you got me, Dave, you got Collin, you got Bryant. Bryant's back with us. Collin's been moving across the country. I think out of the country. I don't really know, but he's here with us, so that's great. But Collin, talk to us about what college football is at this point. Where are we at with college football? Let's talk about the Heisman, Collin. Let's talk about that as well, because we know that was a very controversial situation. I think there's a lot of people that still disagree with who the winner was. But talk to us, Collin. What's going on in college football?
Yeah, first, welcome back, everybody. Things have been hectic here for us. Dave, congratulations on the baby out there. You've been busy with that, welcoming in your third child. Like Dave said, I have been moving. Things are going to look a little different for me here for a while. Bryant, just as consistent as it can get. Lucky to have Bryant here with us. He's always here. We can always rely on him. But yeah, man, this is something we've been waiting on all season, right? We've talked about this so many times, what college football has became, where we're at right now. And like Dave said, man, we have tons of good stuff for you here. Gonna do a little Heisman talk a little transfer portal stuff for you, talk about some bowl games that we're excited for outside of the playoffs, and then really dive into the playoff games. And hey, let's not forget the book it. The book it segment is running on all cylinders. Been hot all year. We look to continue the trend. But yeah, Dave, everybody here that follows us on Deep Threat Sports Network knows how we feel, especially Bryant and I, not so much you, Dave. You called this from week 2. Congratulations. You look like a genius. But I just want to say a couple things. First, yeah, obviously, congratulations to Travis Hunter. The guy is a stud. We've never debated that on this network. We've always said, hey, this guy is an absolute unit. He does it on both sides of the ball at a very high efficient level. Now, with that being said, I still, to this moment, don't feel like because he played both ways makes him the Heisman winner. Is it spectacular? Yes. Is it unheard of? Yes. But we're sitting here looking at some PFF rankings, and according to them, you look at Ashton Jeanty would have been the highest rated winner since PFF's been in existence at a 95.3 rank. That's even ahead of Joe Burrow at 95.0, who was the highest Heisman since PFF's been around. And now we look at Travis Hunter, who is actually coming in as the lowest PFF ranked Heisman winner since they've been in existence, with a 90.3 on offense and an 85.3 on defense. I ran down some stats. Travis Hunter didn't really have that many over 100-yard receiving games this season. So for me, yeah, man, it's a shame that Ashton Jeanty didn't end up checking this in. We sit here, and I had many conversations why I pulled for Jeanty as well. Guys, Ashton Jeanty didn't have his stats padded like Travis Hunter did. Ashton Jeanty didn't play in second halves of a lot of their football games. Ashton Jeanty wasn't on the field in a lot of fourth quarters. It was crazy to me. You watch Colorado, and credit to Dion. I feel like there's some Dion effect to this, why Travis Hunter ended up winning this, and all the publicity and how much everyone wanted the Dion thing to work at Colorado. And like I said, many congratulations on this. Congrats to them again for having a good season. They proved me wrong. I'll be the first to admit it. Travis Hunter proved me wrong. Shedeur Sanders is a good quarterback, but they padded Travis Hunter's stats, man. They're up 30 plus. Travis Hunter's still out there on the field. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to spend too much time on this because the playoffs are on the hook, and I want to hear Brian's take on this. But once again, congratulations to Travis Hunter. My vote is still Ashton Jeanty. My vote will still be Ashton Jeanty. I feel like he is one of the most cheated Heisman winners. I can't say of all time, but he's up there.
Well, I agree with you. Like you mentioned, congrats to Travis Hunter. I think he definitely was deserving, but this was the smallest margin of victory in the Heisman race since 2009. And that was the year Mark Ingram won over Stanford running back Tony Gerhart. I read a good quote on this, and it kind of puts it in perspective a little bit. the guy said Ashton Genty is the best player in college football, but Travis Hunter is the most remarkable. And that's kind of, I think, where the Heisman voters kind of lean to in this. I do agree with you with the Dion effect. I think that had a part of it too. Publicity had a part of it too. Colorado played better teams than, for the most part, than Boise State did. So that probably also played a part of it as well. This was really close. I think it could have gone either way. I do agree with you. I think Genty probably should have won just because he carried that team to a playoff. Whereas I think if Travis Hunter was not on Colorado, they still would have been a pretty good football team. So I don't know. Close race, but like you said, congrats to Travis.
My thing with
The good thing about
go
Travis
ahead.
Hunter is he's an extremely humble person, player, and that was a really good speech he gave after the fact.
It
So
was.
it's not like he's a major d bag, and nobody likes him, and he won still. So that's good.
And I agree with you. And he handled it well, handled it with tact. Shout out Lil Wayne. I love
I don't
Lil
know
Wayne.
why Little Wayne was there.
Hey,
But I mean, it's for me too. Ashton Genty, very humble player, and he came out saying, anytime we played a team, they did everything they could to stop me, and they still couldn't stop me. Like when teams played Boise State, they played it in the sense of we are truly trying to stop Ashton Genty, and that's it, and they couldn't. So I mean, yeah, it it was exciting. I was actually, to be honest with you, Bryant, you talk about the smallest margin of victory. I was actually really shocked to see it was that close. Not I didn't think Genty was deserving. I've made my stance. I was shocked to see it come that close because of all the publicity that Travis Hunter was getting. I watched on ESPN the morning of the Heisman. I watched them show the Peyton Manning, the year that I'm drawing a blank now. I just watched it. The year uh, was it Woodson? Yeah,
Charles
the
Woodson.
year Woodson beat him. And I was sitting there watching that, and I was like, they are setting the stage for Travis Hunter tonight to be a two-way player to go in and sweep this Heisman and win it. And he did. And hey, congratulations to him, like we said many times now. And I don't want to spend too much more time on this. Dave, go ahead, stroke yourself here, talk about how you called this all along, and pat yourself on the back. You're deserving of it. I mean, you went against Bryant and I all season. You said Ashton Genty won't win it, but he should, and you loomed to be correct right here at the end.
Should have put some money on that, Dave.
hey, I should have put some money on it. Truthfully, I will say at the beginning, I was like, it was just kind of a thought in the air. Like I was like, and really, it was just to get on Collin. That's why I was really pushing it because I knew it pissed him off. So I was like, let's ride this out. But no, I will say I agree. I think actually Genty should have won it. And to be fair, man, like when it comes to awards like this, yes, these are sporting awards, but then you also are setting the stage of like who are these people winning these awards for best player in the country? Because I do think that who you are as a person should reflect on this because as a player, especially as a collegiate player, you're setting the standard for that next generation. Which goes to your point, Colin, about how you guys talked about how Travis Hunter seems it was a great speech. But I just think Ashton Genty's just a good dude. I mean, who stays at Boise State after last year? I mean, I get it. Yes, I'm sure Boise State probably has money too, but man, he could have gone anywhere in the
They
country
ain't got that.
a lot more.
They ain't got that kind of money. And last thing I want to touch on the Heisman, and we're going to move on to some transfer talk here because we got some things to touch on there too. Who would you guys have had third, Dylan Gabriel or Cam Ward? Not that it really matters, but like I'm pretty persuasive that I would have had Genty, Cam Ward, then Travis Hunter. So I'm all in on Cam Ward.
Oh,
What do you
okay.
think, Dave?
I would have probably gone Genty, Gabriel Hunter, and then Cam Ward fourth.
God dang. What about you, Bryant?
I think I would have went Genty, Hunter, Gabriel, Cam Ward.
Really? Okay. All right.
Mm.
All right.
No, I'm not saying Cam Ward is a fourth
Dylan,
player in the country. I just think there's a lot of talent ahead of him.
I just think he's the. I know they're not in the playoff. He is quarterback in football.
This is where you split the hairs between is the Heisman a player that's on the best team at the end of the season, a la Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, or is it the absolute best quarterback, best player in the country, which is arguably Cam Ward? That's the kind of the splitting hairs argument that happens every year with this award.
For sure. And nobody, and I'm not saying I'm right. I've campaigned so hard for Genty and Cam Ward, and I just can't give up on those two because I feel like they both brought such great things to college football this season, and so did Gabriel and Travis Hunter. But not that that matters anymore. The Heisman's buried, and Dave, you were correct. So good for you, Otto, and hopefully you're not a fan of them next season any longer. But moving on here, let's touch a little bit on the transfer portal here, Brian. I know you got some strong opinions on this. I know you want to talk about some team spending some serious dough. And Dave, I know you want to add some things too. And I also got some things for us as well. So, Brian, why don't you go ahead and hit us with some of the transfer portal news you got so far?
I just want to talk like a 10,000-foot view. There's been some teams that have been absolutely gutted. Some honestly big time names. Oklahoma has lost an enormous amount of players to the portal and have only gained like two or three.
Mm,
Arkansas, I think every single starter on offense and defense except for like four players has transferred, and they've also not got much back. There's been a lot of teams in the middle, swapping players. I think Missouri's in that conversation of lost a few good guys, gained a few good guys back. And then there's teams that are just absolutely spinning dough in the portal. Two that are pretty obvious that, they probably will be in this conversation every year. And one I think that's kind of a sleeper that's spending a lot of money that nobody's really watching. Um, Ole Miss is, I don't know who's their donor. I don't know how big their NIL fund is. I don't think maybe they get any NIL for any other sport other than football. But they are seemingly in on every big time name. I read something they're like they have six of the top 10 portal players that are in there right now committed to them. Big time players at every position, getting big time players from big schools. Guys from Florida going there, LSU going there, A&M transferring there, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, I mentioned A&M. They're another team that is just absolutely raking in the portal right now as well. We all know that A&M has money. They always have. They probably were paying players 20 years ago like this. We just didn't hear about it.
yes.
Um, Another team that I just mentioned earlier that I mentioned is kind of get slept on. Texas Tech is actually having a pretty good year so far in the portal. They've got a couple big players that came in. They did have Micah Hudson transfer out, who went to
Yep.
A&M. He was a big player, but they got a really good lineman from North Carolina. I think his last name is Sampson, and a few other guys. So keep an eye on them as well. This portal has been kind of crazy with teams needing players at a certain position, but also bringing in other quarterbacks and stuff. Two quarterbacks at the same time. It's all just mind boggling how I would not want to be a coach right now in college football. That's for sure.
Dude,
Now,
transfer portal is nuts, man. It's so hard to keep up. Like, real quick, Dave, and I'll kick it to you. I just brought because he brought something up on my mind. Talk about Oklahoma losing so many guys, man. They lose Jackson Arnold, who they thought was going to be their next big thing, was going to be next Sam Bradford. I mean, you heard all the conversations. He hops over to Auburn. We need to talk about how Auburn is pushing all the chips in. This is a make or break year for Hugh Freeze, in my opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
Auburn sits 2 quarters. They bring in quarterback Ashton Daniels from Stanford. They bring in Jackson Arnold. Like, they are not wanting to miss. They're in on every player you see in the portal. They are all over shit. I mean, this is crazy. And yes, Ole Miss and Texas A&M, they are going to do this thing every single year. They are trying to buy their way to an SEC championship as well, and bigger things on the horizon for them. But they just have to execute. And I'll be honest, fellas, I think I'm a huge Lane Kiffin fan, but I'm going to be honest. I think Mike Elko at Texas A&M can do way bigger things than Lane Kiffin can do at Ole Miss. And I know we got a small sample size from Mike Elko and a fairly large sample size from Lane Kiffin now. But I mean, if Ole Miss really spent some money this last year, and if they weren't able to squeak their way into a 12-team playoff this year when there was kind of an avenue for them, it's hard for me to sit here and say, yeah, they can do it at any time. I mean, they had Trey Harris, who, in my opinion, is the best receiver in the country. They had Jackson Dart, who was a top quarterback in the country. I mean, this is crazy. But let me ask you too, real quick, this too, because you talked about Oklahoma. Oklahoma did lose Jackson Arnold, but they bring in John Mateer from Washington State. That's a gain actually for them, in my opinion. Right?
I would agree. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I'd take John Mateer over Jackson Arnold. I mean,
Uh, I,
it's not a huge difference, but I think they still came out on top of that. Do you think that
yes.
was planned? Do you think that was planned, or do you think they got John Mateer after they found out about Jackson Arnold. Because let's be real, the coaches and the players, they kind of know things before they actually happen.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. If people want to go back and watch our previous episodes, I don't want to sit here and stroke, Dave's, Bryant's, and mine's ego. But I mean, we have actually, and I guess it's not necessarily too hard anymore because all these guys are going to exercise as free agents. But we've caught a lot of this shit. Like the minute Jackson Arnold lost his starting job, and I'm sure other people out there said the same thing. But we were like, hey, there is no way in hell that Jackson Arnold's on this football team next year. Right away, he's out. So I mean, and that's just a small example. And you talk about they lose out of their receivers. They lose Nick Anderson, LSU wide receiver Nick Anderson's a stud. So I mean, they can pony up right back with him. They've lost some receivers on the portal as well. I know I saw that Garrett Nussmeier's coming back. That's big for them. Absolutely huge for them. They just got to figure out that defense, or our boy Blake Baker stay there is going to be real short. And Brian Kelly, I said this before. I'm gonna say it again. Brian Kelly is on the hot seat going into this 2025 season next year.
Absolutely.
Smoking hot seat. So, I mean, Dave, I don't know if you got some guys you want to talk about, some things you want to talk about. We'll do a little bit of Mizzou talk for the transfer here. Like we've said many times, a lot of our followers are Mizzou fans. We'll touch on that a little bit. But, Dave, if you got anybody you want to talk about, anything big, you want to talk about Bill Belichick to your home state, North Carolina Tar Heels, go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest shocks for me was Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. And I'm not saying because I don't think he's a good coach, but it's like you're going backwards, and you're going backwards from NFL to college at a bad time where there is an IL, where there is a lot of other stuff going on. Like it's just a lot of headache in college football. I think, which is why a lot of coaches have either retired or they have moved on to the NFL. Because at this point, if you're going to have to deal with money, you might as well go to the NFL where at least you're dealing with grown adults. Not saying that these college players are not grown adults, but you got some maturity to have. So like, I'm not saying Bill Belichick's not going to work out at UNC, but I don't know why he would make that move. I don't know. Maybe he's looking for a new girlfriend. UNC, not a bad place to look. I don't know. I even heard something about how people were saying he took a job at UNC so his girlfriend could get free tuition. I don't know. I'm just telling you.
I mean, she is young.
I'm just telling you what I'm hearing.
I will say there is some family ties to UNC with Belichick. I know his dad was a coach there when he was younger, and he spent a lot of time around that program. So that was honestly probably a big selling point to them there. I mean, Belichick's he's got to be close to 70 years old, right?
I think he's like 72, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, they just keep hiring the old folk. They had Mac Brown there right before him. So they're just rolling with,
yes.
Call it, instead of Tar Heels, it's called the AARP, NCAA or UNC. Instead of the Tar Heels, they're pulling Social Security over there.
Hey,
he's 72. Make sure we got that. He's 72. And to your point, though, I can't say it's a lateral move because Bill Belichick, and everybody knows I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm not trying to be biased about this, but Bill Belichick is the greatest NFL coach of all time. I mean, he brings in 6 championships to North Carolina, and I know that's in the NFL and not college. But if I'm a parent or I'm anybody, and North Carolina said they're going to spend some money, I also read that a lot of this had to do with his son, Steve Belichick, trying to be the coach in waiting. I don't know how true any of that is, but like, I wouldn't be pissed if my son wouldn't play for Bill Belichick in college football. I mean,
no, that's the guy you want him to play for.
Yes, but my only concern for Bill Belichick is he is such a hard-nosed coach. He is a my way or the highway. He is, hey, I'm going to kick you in the nuts if you're not doing something right. And that just is not going to work in this portal world of college football. I mean, the first time he pisses a kid off, he's out the door.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out.
Well, Collin, let's talk about
8-9 win football team. I don't know if he eclipses that. I don't know if he's much different than Mac Brown, to Bryant's point. I don't want to say it's a lateral move, but it feels semi-lateral move-ish.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do want to talk about another coach that's a lot different personality-wise. Let's talk about Deion Sanders landed the Liberty quarterback, Caden Salter.
Yeah.
What those people to go to Colorado? like I get it, Deion Sanders, like that's cool, whatever. But I feel like by this point it should have died off. You know what I'm saying? Like just the coolness of it being Deion Sanders. Like, does he actually have something great building over there? Like, are we just haters? Like, I don't know.
I got two things to say about this. A, I don't think that Liberty quarterback is really that good, to be honest. The dude is horrible under pressure and fumbles and throws the ball, throws interceptions a ton. Now he is really good, but he can be really good. Kind of like the dude quarterback Malik Murphy. He's either tearing it up or he's actually throwing the ball to the other team or fumbling it.
Yep.
Second thing, with Deion Sanders, kind of a hot take here, but I think as soon as Shador gets drafted, he's bouncing.
You
You
think so?
think?
I can see it
Man.
happening.
I guess for me, why would you want? I feel like for him, yes. I mean, other than having like the NFL, like having that on your resume, like he's got everything he wants to Colorado. I guarantee you, the second he says, "Hey, I want a Slim Jim," the Slim Jim magically appears in his office in Colorado. Like he's got everything
Oh,
going
all
in Colorado.
Slim Jim. I mean, I know you're just using something for an example here, but I mean, he wants a Porsche. They're pulling up in a Porsche. I mean, uh, for me, it's Brian. I agreed with you all the way until I saw, like, for me, it was different at the end. Felt like he actually had a little bit more sense of pride in coaching the Colorado Buffaloes. And now I see the work that he's actually trying to do in the portal. And for me, I was just like, okay, maybe I've been wrong this whole time. But I mean, I would still leave the door open. Yes, that if the right job comes calling and Shadur goes somewhere that Dion has some interest in, I mean, I have no doubts in my mind that he would hop ship tomorrow. There's no way he likes the cold. I mean, he's a Florida guy. This is not his environment. So I mean, I totally agree with you. I also agree a little bit on the Caden Salter thing. I think there is some high upside there. I do think he has some Shadur Sanders tendencies in a good, so it wouldn't be as hard of a transition. I also think what makes it so appetizing for players, Dave, like you asked that question, is it's a fun environment, man. This is what modern college football is, dude. They love the Lil Wayne being there for the Heisman presentation. They love the Lil Wayne concerts, the Rick Ross concerts at halftime. They love that shit, man. They eat that shit up. And if you put a little bit of success behind it, that's why it's catching so much traction. Going into this last season, there wasn't a lot of success, mediocre success at best. And they come out and have a pretty good season this year, get their name in some Big 12 conversations. I think players maybe realized that a team like Arizona, what you have to do is win the Big 12 and you're in. And I think that the door is open for Colorado to take over the Big 12 at some point. I mean, I really, really do. So for me, I think there's a lot of things that go into this. Also, the publicity, like we talked about Travis Hunter earlier, you have the Heisman winner. Shadur Sanders is in Heisman conversations. That is very appetizing for these college players. It showed that he's going to let players, and if they want to play both ways, they can play both ways. So I think there's a lot of upside for what Colorado has to offer. I mean, that was my long-winded take on that.
No, I definitely agree with your point that I kind of saw it at the Heisman ceremony. It seemed like Dion was almost like a father figure to Travis Hunter, and
Yep.
you don't get invested in a player like that if you're as soon as your son leaves, you're looking for the door out. That was a hot take for me. He's just notorious for bouncing as soon as the first opportunity shows up. But
I think there's
I
some track.
Yeah, I can agree with you for sure that he seems to be kind of more cemented than I initially thought he would be in a,
Yeah.
kind of a father figure head coach type role at Colorado. So definitely we'll see. I think it kind of depends where Shador gets drafted and maybe an NFL position opens up of some sort that could be intriguing to him.
The right job, any of these coaches are going to leave, right? I mean, I feel like there's like 3 coaches in the country in college that would not leave where they're at. And I mean, that's up for everybody listening to us to decide who they think their 3 are. I'm not going to hot take that, but like that's any job can come get somebody if it's the right job. I mean, I think that is evident. So let's talk a little bit about Mizzou here, and then we'll move on to some bowl and some playoff talk here. Bryant, I'm gonna let you take the floor. You're very, very in touch with the Mizzou transfer portal so far. Hell, I've been so busy. You're keeping me up to date with some things too. I love it. I just want to say that I think Josiah Trotter will be one of the most underrated gets for Mizzou in this transfer portal. I think he brings a lot of really good things. I think he brings some presence to this linebacking core that we need. I mean, he's a big boy. I think he's like 6'2", 225. I mean, I like this. I think this was a very, very good get, and I was very happy to see that one. Now I'm going to punt the ball over to you and take the floor, baby.
Yeah, so Mizzou has actually lost a decent amount of players in the portal already. I think we're at 12 or 13. That being said, a lot of those guys were actually on special teams with punters, kickers, etc. We haven't lost any players that are going to impact somewhere else immediately, I don't think. We lost Kawan Lacey, a really good running back we recruited out of Texas. He went to Ole Miss. We lost Jalen Brown, a really good defensive end prospect we had on their team. He went to South Carolina, wanted to be a little closer to home. And then, he was a 5-star number 1 overall player on 3 last year was Williams Nawari. He followed his old high school head coach to Nebraska. So those kind of hurt a little bit. But we're seeing us start to backfill some of those players. Just a few hours ago, we picked up the number 1 running back in the transfer portal, and Ahmad Hardy out of Louisiana Monroe had almost 1,400 yards as a freshman there in Louisiana. The Trotter guy was a great pickup. We've got a couple of safeties that are decent. What was the other linebacker's name? I can't remember his name.
Jabair from Nebraska, I think is how you
Yes,
pronounce
yeah,
that.
Micah Guberry. So him and Trotter were the 2 of the top 4 linebackers in the portal. So those are
Huge.
good pickups for sure. But the obvious question mark is the quarterback position right now.
Yeah,
Um,
what's going on there, Brian?
We were in on Jackson Arnold, never really got much traction. Mississippi State was the leader at first, and then now he's since transferred elsewhere. Where'd he go? Auburn?
Auburn. Yep.
Auburn, yes. We were actually in on Miller Moss from USC. He had a visit. It was between us and Louisville. But at the last
I
moment, he
thought
picked Louisville.
that called that one first, boys. We were all over that shit, and it looked like it was going to happen at one point.
Yeah, for sure. There's been some other names we've been kind of rumored. Um, Bo Pribula has his transfer out of Penn State. He's the backup. He was on a visit yesterday and today, but he's going to take a look around at other few places. And then the big fish that's still out there that Mizzou is in on right now as far as quarterbacks is Mendoza from Cal. Um, I've heard smoke to Miami. I've heard possible visits to Iowa State and Indiana. I've heard him actually possible returning back to Cal, but he's actually the number 2 quarterback in the portal as it sits right now on 3 rankings, which I'm looking at. So this depends. Mizzou's kind of been, like I mentioned earlier, gaining a few guys that were, probably would have either been A starters or heavy contributors, but also gaining that back through the transfer portal. So, got a lot of work to do. I'm still quite concerned about the offensive line. We're losing 3 starters there, and 1 starter is out for the season this past season with injury that will be coming back. So, that I think is the biggest question mark we still have to address. We've had some visitors in, but they've all committed elsewhere. Um, on the flip side, Mizzou has actually done a lot better in the portal in the springtime after the playoffs and everything's over. So we'll see. Everybody gets in a panic about this December transfer portal, but there's still a lot of guys out there on the Notre Dames and the Indianas and those type of teams that are playing for something still that could hop in. And a team like Missouri is, honestly a good destination for some of those players.
I still don't think we've seen the biggest names into the transfer portal yet. And I think that's and I'm not saying Mizzou's going to be a front runner on the biggest names. I think they can be. I think they have the money to offer. But I also think that's why you don't see Mizzou overpaying early for some of these guys. I would have loved Miller Moss. We called that weeks ago. I would have absolutely loved to see that. I think for me, Bryant, I don't really have any pushback to any of that. I am very, very nervous about the offensive line, yes. But for some reason, for me, like, I feel like Mizzou always kind of out on the offensive line. Like, I feel like they piece together a pretty consistent, solid staff they can rely on.
Mhm.
Tollison's gonna he's the boat anchor of this offensive line. I shout out my alma mater there. Love seeing Tollison come back. That was huge. I think for me personally, my biggest concern is our defensive line, and I think that is so huge in the SEC to have that. There's know if Mizzou has any traction on this or if he's even going to fully hop in. I texted you guys today in a text. If Patrick Payton from Florida State hops into the transfer portal, Mizzou needs to throw a lot of money at Patrick Payton and some Tigers uniform. And the two quarterbacks you're talking about, Francisco Mendoza from Cal and Bo Pribula from Penn State, I would absolutely love either one of those guys. And I try to be a realist. I try to take a step back. We still have Sam Horn 4-star on roster, and we were so happy to get Mr. Georgia when he. I read that football around. I read that he's recovering well.
Mhm.
Maybe I know he hasn't done a football in like 3 years in live action or 2 years, whatever it is. Maybe we should take a step back and maybe trust that a little bit if something doesn't work out. I don't want all our eggs to be in that basket. I want somebody to come in and compete with them for sure, but maybe that works out. And a little bit more pushback I have is I do, Bryant, think AC can go over to Ole Miss and be an impact starter year one there for them in the 2025 season. I read nothing but spectacular things about that guy, but Mizzou
Mhm.
does good running back room. So maybe he just felt congested, wasn't going to get the workload he wanted. I'm sure Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss offered some money, offered a good a good amount of playing time, and I think he can get that. I also think the Jalen Brown to South Carolina. I think he has an immediate impact next season because that defensive front, man, they're just getting better. Like they add Jalen Brown, they add Gabriel Brownlow Dindy from Texas A&M. Like this defensive line for South Carolina next year and another year of our guy. This is just that South Carolina defensive front's only getting better, fellas. But yeah, it's Mizzou. I'm 50-50 on it right now. I'm not panicking. I don't love
Yeah.
it yet.
There's a
I
lot
think
of guys on Twitter and other sites that are absolutely losing it right now.
I don't. And to your point, dude, they do so much better in the spring window. That's why I'm not panicking yet. And like I said a second ago, and you touched on this as well, I don't think the biggest names are in the portal yet. I really don't. So there is a lot left to be desired. Yes, and I think they will still do some really good things. So that's where I'm at with it. Dave, you got any Mizzou hate? Even though you got your Mizzou
Hey,
we
I got
on too. I went the wrong way. You can't see mine here. I guess my tag got ripped off in the move here. This is my Mizzou shirt. It says Mizzou right there, but it doesn't say it no more. So a lot of Mizzou love here tonight, baby.
there you go. No,
Here's the oh,
I, I think to your point, and I think I don't think Missouri's desperate. Look at a team like Auburn. I think they had a lot of needs they needed to fill. And I don't think Mizzou has yes, like Bryant, to your point, the offensive line, but to be at this point in the season and like you're only worried about for the most part offensive line and a quarterback, that's not a bad position to be in. Look at Oklahoma, who's losing all these players. Like when you finish 9-3, you're going to keep a decent amount of players, especially if you got a good program growing. So if you got good boosters, you can't beat that. You can't beat a good booster. So no, I think Mizzou is on the rise, and I think next year if I think it just depends on if they can get a good quarterback in this portal.
Yep.
But really, we'll see.
I just want to touch on something real quick. I know a lot of people follow Mizzou, but they may not be as in depth as some people are. Mizzou is losing a lot of starters to the draft and no more eligibility. Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, Brady Cook, etc. But we actually still have a lot of studs on the offensive side of the ball.
yeah.
James Madison is going to be a great wide receiver. My favorite probably receiver we still have on our team that was a freshman this year is Courtney Crutchfield. If you don't know that guy, go watch his highlights.
Get
He
from it.
is a playmaker from the state of Arkansas. And then we still got Josh Manning as a stud. Norfleet's still going to be there. Our running back room is deep.
There
I'm
you
not as concerned about the defensive line as Collin is. A lot of people forget we still have Darius Smith on our team. He did get hurt this year, but he's going
huge
to be an
comeback.
absolute
Yeah.
animal defensive end. We don't lose hardly anybody in the defensive interior defensive linemen. So I think we're set up for having a pretty good season. Still need a few more pieces, but there's a lot of guys still on this roster that are going to perform at a high level for our home state Tigers.
I just hope Darius Smith can replace some production from Johnny Walker Jr. Like that's my biggest thing. I just want a true go get it pass rusher. That's my only thing. Like we had with Darius Robinson 2 years ago. I feel like Mizzou always has that guy that gets after. And we did see Johnny Walker Jr. not really do what we fully expected this last season. But I just felt like there were some games where they missed that havoc player that was really getting after the quarterback. That's my only thing. I would love to see them land a quarterback and a true go get it pass rusher, and I'd be content because Darius Smith, yes, that guy is going to be a problem. As long as you say he's healthy, obviously, and that goes for everybody. But yes, Courtney Crutchfield will be my favorite player on the Missouri Tigers next season. I can promise you that, and I hope he lives up to the hype. So I'm big things. I agree, and we talked about this before about Mizzou. Last thing, and I'm moving on, is if you're a Mizzou fan, be realistic. Reevaluate the expectations. 9 wins is a great season in the SEC. And if we could win 9 games every season, we would love that. I would be more than happy. Yes, I want to tick up every once in a while, make a playoff push. But I mean, Bryant and I will be the first to tell you 4, 5 years ago, we would have loved 9 win seasons. So let's be realistic and let's just hope we have one every now and then, like last year, where you're getting up in the 11 win mark. That'd be great.
Absolutely. But let's talk about something else. I want to talk about bowl games. I mean, they've started actually a couple of days ago. Some of the lower caliber ones. But I just want to talk about. You guys know I'm big on Diego Pavia, but my bowl game that I really want to talk about is Birmingham Bowl. It's gonna be Vanderbilt versus Georgia Tech. That's gonna be on Friday, December 27th at 2:30 p.m. through ESPN. I just love Diego Pavia. Yes, I know that today he got his extra year of eligibility, but I think he's going to stay, man. I think he's going to stay at Vandy. And even Bryant mentioned earlier, what he tweeted out earlier. So I think he's going to stay. But I also man, this is, I almost would have not liked if he would have not got that extra year. But if this is his last year, he's going balls to the wall. Like he is going to be probably slinging the rock. So they would have been fun. But now, I think it's still going to be fun. It's going to be a quarterback battle, I think, in this game. You got Haynes King, which can also show up for Georgia Tech. I mean, and let's not forget, these are not bad teams. Like, this is probably going to be one of the most exciting games. Vanderbilt has had big upsets. Georgia Tech has had big games. They took Georgia to 8 overtimes.
Miami.
Yeah. I mean, Miami, they're probably the reason Miami's not in the playoffs. And then, it's just crazy. I mean, Bama, Georgia Tech, UGA. I mean, it's gonna be a fun game. I just think this is probably gonna be one of the most exciting games. I wouldn't be shocked if we're getting over 60 points in this game.
No, this will be a good game for sure. Bryant, who you got on the radar for your bowl game?
I picked one. I went with the ReliQuest Bowl. This is Alabama versus Michigan on New Year's Eve at 11 o'clock ESPN. This is the rematch from last year's college football semifinal Rose Bowl game, which Michigan obviously won and went on to win the national title. Not a whole lot of big time players in this game. Obviously, everybody knows Milroe and everything, and Alabama's kind of got bit pretty bad in the portal already, so we're going to see some new guys in there playing for them. That being said, Michigan actually has a winning record against Alabama in bowl games at 3-2. This is Alabama's 21st consecutive bowl win. I think this is going to be a little closer game. Obviously, I think I don't remember what the line was. I think I know I was looking at ESPN and Alabama had an 81% chance to win this game, but Michigan is arguably better than them on offensive and defensive line. So, I think we're going to see a little bit of a vanilla off. I don't think this is going to be a high scoring, everybody pay attention type game, but kind of an interesting matchup as a rematch of last year's semifinal game.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can put name brands like Alabama and Michigan in the same game, tune into that. I mean, that's if you're seeing a really good coach in Kalen DeBoer and maybe a coach on the rise, Sharon Moore, who probably extended his career as the Michigan head coach, beating Ohio State. So, hey, anytime you can see those two teams go at it, always tune in. My bowl game that I chose was the Pop-Tart Bowl. One, how can you not like the Pop-Tart Bowl for starters? They put a big-ass Pop-Tart out there. And before I even talk about this game, I'm going to ask you two, what is your favorite Pop-Tart? And don't tell me you guys don't like Pop-Tarts because I'm coming through the screen. I'm picking a cookie dough Pop-Tart, and that's a no-brainer for me. Dave,
Man, huh?
You probably like the brown sugar Pop-Tart.
No, dude, I keep it simple with just a straight up strawberry. Now, I will say, if you eat Pop-Tarts without the icing on top, you're insane.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you're definitely insane.
That's some serial killer shit if you eat no icing on top.
100%. 100%.
I'm going to be honest. I haven't had a Pop-Tart in probably 10 years.
No.
Yeah, I don't eat breakfast at all.
You can eat Pop-Tart any time of day, Bryant. I eat them at night.
I know. Maybe I'll go buy some here this week and enjoy them while I'm watching the Pop-Tart Bowl here in
Hey,
a week from Saturday. But my favorite back in the Dizzy, getting ready for high school or whatever it was the Aldi's brand Wild Berry.
dude, that is actually a criminally underrated Pop Tart.
Very
Really?
good. It's got purple
Yes.
top with like some red and blue sprinkles on it, and I think it's blueberry, raspberry, and watermelon or something mixed together. It slaps.
It's
Mm.
probably won't catch the Aldi's Pop Tart at the Pop Tart Bowl. They might not let you in with that one, but all these Pop Tarts, those are heat too. But yeah, this game is the Pop Tart Bowl is Iowa State, Miami. Shocker, if you guys can believe I picked the Miami game. That is Saturday, December 28th at 2:30 p.m. on ABC. I will 100% be tuned into this. I think Iowa State has not there. It's hard to say something to prove in a bowl game anymore because nobody cares about them as much if you're not a playoff bowl. But I think they want to prove a little something here. Last I looked, Miami was -3.5. I would probably book that right now, personally, because you have Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo, and Jacoby George all playing a football game. And anytime I can watch the three of those guys play together again, I'm going to do it. So I promise you, I will be tuned in to this football game, and I am extremely excited to watch Cam Ward sling the rock in college one more time.
Is Martinez playing this game?
Yeah, it's indifferent. I've read a couple different things, so I didn't want to cite it wrong. So if he's playing, they're going to kick the shit out of Iowa State because Iowa State got absolutely railroaded by Cam Scatterbo.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, and I think Cam Ward still has a little bit to play for. With his, I do think he's going to be a high-end draft pick at the quarterback position, but I think he can honestly maybe elevate his draft stock a little bit in this game for sure. Fun
Absolutely.
fact: one other fun fact about the Pop-Tart Bowl, they unveiled a new trophy this year, and the trophy actually has a toaster inside of it.
What?
So this football, it almost looks like the old BCS trophy, and the football on top, the top slides kind of over, and then here comes the Pop Tarts. It's a toaster.
Dude, the Pop Tart Bowl is the real deal, dude. This should be like a New Year's Six Bowl. This is the real shit. It is becoming my favorite bowl game every year just because they do
I like
some.
I like the Mayo Bowl where they dump a giant ass jar of mayo on the winning head coach.
I love me some mayo, but I wouldn't be about that.
If you put mayo, you imagine how hard it is to get mayo out of here.
No, dude. But wasn't it the Mayo Bowl last year? He was playing it where like there was conspiracies that both teams are trying to lose the football game. Like everybody was like, because they both coached so bad, they were like, these two coaches just didn't want Mayo dumped on. Like they just had
Yeah, I
no
think so.
football game.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
take us into what counts, baby. It is time. Playoffs are here, and we're gonna talk the real shit right now, Dave. Introduce this first football game. Let's get us going.
Man, this could be a good one. Colin, I know you're going to be tuned into this one because you are a big Kurt Signetti fan. Indiana's going to be at Notre Dame on Friday, December 20th at 7 p.m. through ABC, which I believe is this Saturday. If I'm not,
Friday.
It's on Friday.
it's
It's a
Friday.
Friday.
Even better. What a banger for a Friday.
Yep, we got the very first college football playoff 12-team playoff scenario football game on a Friday night at 7. I'll be honest, I don't love that it's a Friday, but I'm jacked up that we got a meaningful football game on Friday. It gets here even sooner, and this is going to be. I think this game has the potential to be like the best football game of the weekend. I really do.
Yep.
Is a this is an in-state game. This is an in-state rival for two teams that don't get much against each other. Indiana traveling over to South Bend. South Bend's a tough place to play, but this weather is nothing crazy and new for these Indiana Hoosiers. I read that there's some wintry mix and some 20-degree weather in play coming into this football game. I do think that helps with that rushing attack. Jeremiah Love, Riley Leonard, and Price. I mean, those three guys are arguably one of the best trios at running the football in the business. And me and Bryant were talking a little bit before this about something here. I do think that Indiana's rushing defense does have the potential to give Notre Dame some fits, Bryant. I mean, I know you touched on that a little bit, and I mean, I'm going to let you dive into that. But yeah, Dave, you are right, man. I cannot wait to watch Curtis Rourke, Kurt Signetti, true underdog story all season long, come in here and try to scheme up a dub against Notre Dame. It's going to be tough, but I do think that Indiana, they've had some troubles against the big schools like Ohio State and Michigan. But one thing in those games is they had turnovers. The rest of the season, they didn't really have turnovers. And if they can limit the turnovers and slow down and not let Riley Leonard scramble for extra yards, I do think Indy has a chance in this football game. Keep Curtis Work on his feet. I do think they can maybe get the job done.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think there's two keys to this game. For if Indiana wants to win. And I think if they don't, then I think Notre Dame wins. First being obviously stop the run, which Indiana has been very good at doing. Now, obviously, I think this is the best run sheet attack they've seen all season. Notre Dame has a three-headed monster with Riley Leonard, Jeremiah Love, and the other guy slipping my name. I can't remember his name. Price. Anyway, Indiana has been very good against the run. So if they can do that, they have a chance. Now, on the flip side of that, Riley Leonard has struggled in obvious passing situations. They can get them behind the chains. Indiana, that being defensive side of the ball, I think they have a good chance of keeping this a low-scoring game and sticking with them. On the other side, Collin kind of mentioned it. Indiana has been horrible against blitz packages as well as protecting Curtis Rourke in the two games they lost. They had a bunch of sacks in that game they gave up to Michigan and Ohio State. If they cannot keep him upright and let him go through his progressions and see the field, it's going to be a long day. But personally, if I'm Indiana, I'm trying to establish the run because Notre Dame has really not that been good at defending it this year against subpar teams. So this is going to be an intriguing matchup. I think this is the most evenly away game matchup that's slated in these first four games, with Indiana being really close to home. I think they're going to have a lot of fans there as well. So I don't think the environment's going to be that big of a factor. So I think this is going to be coming down to, like I mentioned, can Indiana stop the run, and can Indiana also keep Curtis Rourke upright?
I do think too, though, that these teams are both facing the best passing attacks that they've seen all season. And I don't think Notre Dame's passing attack is necessarily great. I just That's not a pat on the back for either of these teams either. I truly think if you really go down the schedule and look at it, I do think this is the best passing attacks they faced. Now, Ohio State is better than Notre Dame at passing the football, but I truly think in that football game, Indiana just dug a hole and they couldn't get out of it, and turnovers killed them. Some special teams points, some special teams mistakes by Indiana. They cannot afford to get down in this football game like that. And if they do, yes, mail it in. It's over. But I do think that they can make it a game if they take care of the football. And like we have both said, keep Rourke on his feet, and they will have a chance.
Man, absolutely. I'm excited for Indiana. They got good things going over there. I think Curtis Rourke is a senior, right? So this will be his last college. Could potentially be his last college game if he doesn't win this. But no, I believe
They have to third downs, Dave.
You say what?
Indiana has to convert on third downs all game long.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think Indiana has to fire on all cylinders, but also they got a little bit of wiggle room with Riley Leonard. Could either be great Riley Leonard or terrible Riley Leonard. So it's just who's going to come out to play on Friday. But if you guys got anything else, go ahead. But I really wanted to move to SMU Penn State because I think it's going to be a very exciting game. So if you guys don't have anything, I'll move into SMU. SMU is going over to Penn State on Saturday, December 21st at 11 a.m. through TNT. I think the big thing here is, man, SMU wasn't even in the playoff conversation for a really long time. And then here they come rolling in after Miami gets dumped out. I think this is why we needed a 12-team playoff, because we need a team like SMU to go in and play at Penn State. And if SMU can beat Penn State, hey, more power to you. Because I think in this game, SMU has to play like they've got everything to lose, because they do. If they lose, people are like, okay, it was SMU. We kind of expected it. But if they win, that's going to be a big shock, especially because James Franklin has got to try to keep his job over there. Not saying he's on the hot seat. He might be. I don't know, Collin. I know you kind of mentioned him not being in a good position at this point. But no, I think James Franklin, like, this is where he can go into his meeting at the end of the year and say, hey, I at least won a playoff game.
You would be correct. I'm going to let Bryant go first, but he doesn't need it to keep his job, but he needs it for the resume because the big games have kicked his ass.
No, I definitely think that plays a factor. I wanted to mention on the last game, I think that plays a factor with Notre Dame as well, but we kind of talked about them enough.
Yeah.
I think I'm just kind of give 2 points. I'm gonna roll with the 2 point kind of aspect for each one of these games. On SMU offensively, they are a big, high flying, score as much as possible. Spread you out type of offense, and they got the playmakers to do it as well as a running back to do it. I was doing some research on this game. SMU actually runs a lot of outside running plays, and Penn State has been one of the worst teams in Power Four against defending that. So I think if SMU can spread it out, like I mentioned, and get them running laterally, I think they can win this football game. I think Kevin Jennings is the X factor for them on offense. That he cannot make the boneheaded mistakes like he made early in the first half against Clemson. I don't think they can come back from a hole like they did in that game and almost pull it out. They won't be able to do that in this game. On the flip side, I know that Penn State has a lot of playmakers on offense, and their two running backs are great, and they're going to lean on them. But I think they're going to have to pass in this game more than you think to win this football game. And on the middle side of the field, SMU safeties are probably 2 or 3 of the best in the nation. They will not let anything over the middle. They are ball hawks, almost like the old Seahawks Legion of Boom type team we saw back in the day. But on the outside, their cornerbacks have been a liability. So I think if Penn State can get some play action going and get some double moves maybe on the outside, they'll be able to exploit that. So I think the X factors in this game here is Kevin Jennings and SMU quarterback, and on the flip side, it's SMU's cornerbacks.
I could not agree more that SMU can be exposed outside the numbers defensively. But if you take Tyler Warren as a receiving threat out of the equation, and obviously it's very hard to do, and I'm not saying they're going to, but I look around at this and I did the same thing. I was like, man, how does Penn State beat them outside the numbers? Like they don't. I don't know any receiver that stepped up consistently. Talked about this as well. The James Franklin effect is in play here. Rhett Lashley is a much better coach than James Franklin. And if I have to put money somewhere for a team to out another, it's going with SMU and Rhett Lashley. I think they had a huge punch in the chin not last week, 2 weeks ago against Clemson. I think they kind of came in a little tight, a little nervous, but were very confident in themselves. Got punched in the mouth. I think it woke them up. And I think the football game that Clemson played is very equivalent to a football game that Penn State can play. So, I mean, they know what to expect. They hung in that football game. They fought their way back. If SMU plays a football game like they did in the second half against Clemson, they are going to win this football game. I think this game being at 11 a.m. also makes it very enticing for SMU. It was a really good call for them because if you were going to play in Happy Valley at 7 o'clock at night, I probably wouldn't give SMU a chance that I'm giving them right now to go win this football game. Yeah, it's Brashard Smith averaging over 5.5 yards per carry this season, so he's a very big force for this SMU offense. If the run game doesn't work early for SMU, they cannot get away from it, though. Like, they can't panic. They have to trust what's gotten them there. They have to trust Jennings, trust Brashard Smith, keep the ball on the ground, pound the rock, open it up over top, like you said. Work sideline to sideline. They're very good at end arounds. They're very good at getting guys in motion and working from boundary to boundary, and that is where Penn State can be exposed. I think SMU, for me, goes and wins this football game. We did an episode 2 weeks ago after the rankings came out talking about who we thought can really get the job done. I think SMU truly, if they carry the effort, let it all hang out mentality, SMU can make a true push in this college football playoff. I think if they get past this one, this is the motivation they need and the belief they need that they can actually go do this damn thing.
Hey, listen, SMU, even if they lose, I think it's going to be a good year for them. First year in the ACC, and they're performing like this. Heck, look at Oklahoma how they did in the SEC. I mean, but speaking of the SEC,
Well, hey, schedules were just a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, to your point, yes, mad respect for Rhett Lashley and the SMU Mustang.
hey, that's still impressive. But yeah, that's gonna be a good game. I really hope SMU wins. Like, and I know you guys know that I am not the biggest Penn State fan, but that's beyond the point. I think SMU would be really cool story if they get through.
I got one more point too, but go ahead, Colin.
I just think we have to talk a little bit before we move on about Drew Aller.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Big football games for Drew Aller as well as James Franklin don't always go well. That's all I'm going to say. I've talked many of episodes on this show about how I love Drew Aller and think all the intangibles are there. The Andy Nicky hookup as his OC can make things work. Penn State has proven they can go out and score points if they need to. So I think Penn State's true X factor in this game is how does Drew Aller play football? That's I just want to keep it brief, but that is where I was.
And I want to bring up as far as Drew Aller, we've seen him, take some drives off, getting injured, missed a few games. If Drew Aller gets banged up in this game to where he physically cannot play, Penn State's backups in the transfer portal, they are screwed if he gets hurt. And he's an injury-prone quarterback. I don't see it happening, and hopefully it doesn't for, the college football playoff and Penn State's sake, but something to watch. They have no backup.
Their red zone offense is atrocious. I'm going to throw that out there too.
But hey, next I got a very interesting matchup. We've got Clemson going over to Texas on Saturday, December 21st at 3 p.m. through TNT. And the interesting fact with this one is you would think Clemson and Texas have played each other by this point, but this is the first time they meet up. But on the flip side, though, their quarterbacks, this is not the first time that they meet up. Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers actually played in the Texas 6A State Division II Championship back in 2021. So on that game, Cade Klubnik did get the win. So, hey, they've got a little bit of bad blood here. Listen, I know they are high-level quarterbacks at a college level, but listen, those losses in a state championship, those burn. And Quinn Ewers wants this one bad, but at the same time, how much of Quinn Ewers are we going to see? We all talked off camera a little bit about Quinn Ewers just did not look very strong with the football. He's not really there's not much behind the football. So are we going to see Arch Manning? Is Arch Manning going to get some playing time and then Quinn Ewers going to get pissed off and go into the portal? I don't know. I've heard a lot of rumors about a lot of NIL money being offered to him. So what do you guys think about this game? I mean, I'm going to go ahead and ride with Clemson. And hey, you guys know how much I rode Dabo Swinney's ass. I was all over him throughout the year. But listen, he didn't hit the portal and he still made it to the playoffs. That I will say that's pretty darn impressive. I'm gonna give it to him. Like, that's impressive.
Hey, Bryant sent this in the text. Shout out Dabo Swinney's first transfer portal get from Southeast Missouri State, the wide receiver. Good for Dabo. You're killing it, man. But
First
hey,
ever transfer portal.
I mean, from SEMO, hey, right here in the home state, boys. Hey, Screamo. All right, let's focus on the game at hand here. A couple things here. I would be absolutely blown away if we didn't see quite a bit of Arch Manning. We like you said, we talked about this. Quinn Ewers has no zip on the football. Quinn Ewers in the red zone and this Texas offense in the red zone, horrible. I'm just gonna throw that out there. And now I'm reading some more about how Isaiah Bond is going to give it his all to play football. Fellas, if he doesn't play, I mean, this is really limiting a Texas offense who, for me, at times does not look very good. Now, on the flip side of this, let's talk about a team like Clemson who has a horrendous offense at times. Cade Klubnik at times looks to me horrible. Like, there were moments where I was like, they have to try to figure something out at quarterback because he is not the guy. So for me, it's a battle of what do we get out of the quarterbacks? What do we get out of Quinn Ewers? What do we get out of Isaiah Bond? And by far, in a way, the Texas defense is the best unit in this football game. Like, I'm talking, in my opinion, by far, in a way, leaps and bounds the best unit of any of the main four in this football game. I don't think Phil Maffa's all that healthy at the running back position for Clemson. I saw he's wearing some extra padding on the shoulders. I just think there's a lot more question marks in this football game than there is answers for me. And I do think Texas' odds to win the national championship right now are astounding to me. Like it is very mind-boggling to me that they are top 3, top 4, somewhere in that range, no matter where you look, bouncing back and forth. That to me is extremely crazy. I think Texas at this point, and this is crazy coming from me, is better off rolling with Arch Manning.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think we're like you said. I think we're going to see a lot of Arch Manning in this game because I think him and using his legs, he kind of opens up a an advantage there on the offensive side of the ball. Do think Quinn Ewers is going to start this game for sure, but I think we're
Yeah,
going to see a lot of more packages where Arch Manning is going to come in. Um, my two X factors in this game are Clemson's defensive line. Actually, it's the defensive line for Clemson and the offensive line for Texas. If Clemson can get some pressure on Quinn Ewers and make him make plays outside of the pocket and/or quick decisions in the pocket, I think that's how they stay in this game. On the flip side, we talked about it all year. Texas has one of the best offensive lines in the country, and Clemson, they haven't been the best against the run. So, if Texas can take some pressure off of Klubnik and have a great game on the ground rushing the ball, I think they have a chance to run away with this one, but we will definitely see. I think this is the game, like I mentioned earlier. I think this is the game that has the most effect as far as the crowd's concerned. It's going to be in Texas. They're going to be fired up. Clemson has played in these games in the past, but they haven't really played in a game like this year at all. So I'm going to roll with. I think the crowd is going to be one of the bigger aspects in this game for sure. Like you said, there's a lot of more questions than answers. I feel like going into this game with how poorly Texas has played as of late and how much better Clemson has played of late. So we'll definitely see. This one's very intriguing.
I'll be honest. If we come when we come back and do our recap episode, no outcome of the football game would surprise me. A blowout either way, a close game, a damn 6-3 game, like nothing would surprise me. Clemson is the worst offense in the playoffs, in my opinion, and it's a miracle for them they're here. And I know they won the ACC. I don't love that Clemson's here, so maybe they play with that chip. Maybe they come out here and give it a game.
Man, hey, that game's gonna be exciting either way. And hey, you guys know I mentioned that this is the first time they're matching up. But the next game we're going to talk about is Tennessee at Ohio State, Saturday, December 21st at 7 p.m. through ABC. This is not the first time they've played, but they've only ever played one other time, and that was in 1995. And Tennessee was actually the underdog here and knocked off Ohio State. So Tennessee's got the advantage here, but I think it's really going to come down here. Ohio State lost to Michigan, so Michigan kind of exposed that they can't defend the run very well. If Tennessee can run the ball well, I think that is going to be a big factor, as well as Ohio State. If Will Howard gets pressured, I don't know how well he will do if he gets pressured very heavily. I don't know how you guys feel with Will Howard on the pressure, but I just don't think that when the pressure arrives, everything just kind of caves a little bit for him. I don't think he's terrible, but I don't know if he's ready for this caliber game yet.
No, this is kind of a matchup of two very similar teams. Both run the ball well on the Ohio State side, Travion Henderson and Judkins. On the Tennessee side, they have Dylan Sampson. Both have great receivers. Obviously, I think Ohio State's is a little better, but I think Tennessee has a better quarterback. On the flip side, both defenses are really good. So this is going to be a knockout, drag-out game. Tennessee has played in big-time games all season, so I don't think that's going to be an issue from that standpoint. It just kind of depends, I think, which Ohio State team shows up. Is it the team that, absolutely handed it to Indiana at home, or is it the team that, dropped an egg against Michigan? Um, Part of me leans to the side that I think it's going to be the team that drops an egg against Michigan, but we shall see. Another issue we talked about with coaching, Ryan Day cannot win in the big time games. He's got a chance to redeem himself here. Uh, X factors in this game, I think it's Ohio State's receivers. If Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka can step up and play like they have, and if not a little tick better than all season, this game I think will go well for them. On the flip side, I think if Nico can play like he did early on in the season, and against a few of those, not like he did against Arkansas, but the games that they won when they probably shouldn't have, like the Georgia game, etc. I think they'll win. So very evenly matched game here. Glad this is the primetime game on Saturday, so we'll see what happens.
I hate almost reiterating things, but to me, the X factor is yes, is Nico and Will Howard. And my biggest X factor of all is Ryan Day. You touched on this, Bryant. Does Ryan Day overthink this shit? Like the last time they were at home was a couple weeks back against Michigan, and he overthought the hell out of it. Wanted to try to prove that he was the big dog and not let his receivers go to work. And does he do that again in this football game? Does he really limit this offense himself? For me, it's really tough. And I think this is a great matchup. Like you said, I think these teams are very, very similar. I love both these teams' defenses. People love Ohio State's cornerbacks. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're not good because they are. But I think if Nico is on, and we've been saying this all season, if Nico finds it and this team has made their way to the playoffs, if he finds it, they are a true championship contender. That's been the one thing they've been missing is consistent quarterback play. If he finds it, we've been saying it for 12 weeks, but if he finds it in this game, I truly do think he can exploit these Ohio State cornerbacks. I really, really do. And I think they have enough talent at the receiver position to try to get that done. I think, this Tennessee defensive front needs to get in Will Howard's face, make him uncomfortable when he is off his mark. First read's not there. Will Howard is known to throw some dumb interceptions. We've seen it happen kind of time and time again. It's when they find themselves in trouble is when Will Howard turns the ball over, especially on inside the 20. And that can kill this team in a football game like this. Tennessee is going to be an Oregon type game against them. They are going to play very physical. They're going to match up well in the trenches, and they're going to make it extremely hard all game long. And Ryan Day is truly going to have to coach his ass off. This is not going to be an easy football game. I love what Josh Heupel brings to the table for this Tennessee team. I trust him much more than Ryan Day. I do give the nod to Nico over Will Howard. I give the nod at receivers to Ohio State over Tennessee. I think their defenses match up dead nuts, and I think their running back game matches up dead nuts. Whichever team can establish the run against this defense, take the pressure off the quarterback and allow the play action, allow some explosive plays, will win this football game. Don't be surprised if the going is tough. These Ohio State fans are very upset. They're very pissed off still. They feel like they should have a higher seed than what they do. Don't be surprised if the going gets tough early to see this not become home field advantage and become home field disadvantage for this Ohio State football team and Ryan.
One other aspect of this game I think is going to be, a very key point is not a lot of people know this, but the offensive coordinator for Ohio State is Chip Kelly. He's been in big time games before as a head coach. I think Ryan Day may need to step back a little bit and let him handle the offense and not have so much say in it. Chip Kelly knows what he's doing. He won a lot of games at Oregon. He won a decent amount of games at UCLA and has played in big time games as an offensive coordinator and played coaches big time games as an offensive coordinator in the NFL too. So not a lot of people know that he's the offensive coordinator. So I think if Ryan Day can kind of take a step back from that side and let him handle the play calling duties, and not have as much say, I think that'll bode well for Ohio State too.
Let's go.
Let's get into the book it segment. What do you guys think?
Get right into this book segment, Dave. I'm going to kick it to you, but tell the people we are taking an over/under and a spread in all 4 games because it's college football playoff time, baby. We are going to give you a pick regardless, but hey, we're confident enough, and we're going to tell you to book it on every single one of them, Dave. Let the people know what this spicy record is on the season.
Hey, we're 69-56 on the season.
No, we're not.
Correct. We are 73-60. Dave.
Hey, I'm not up to date clearly on anything.
Tune in, Dave.
That is insane. I don't know. I'm not a math guy, but let me do the math real quick.
That's spectacular. We are spectacular.
Hey, we got something figured out.
Are you
Hey,
going to do?
Yeah, if we do the math here, my unit is $1,000 like everybody else. So I'm just teasing.
Absolute.
If you
No,
bet $10 on each one, what are you up, Dave?
all right, so 73 and 63, right?
73 and
73.
60.
Come on. Dude. Yeah, it's time to
You're
get
up
it, buddy.
$130 in the season.
Yeah,
That's pretty
No,
good.
Brian. You're betting 1,000.
that's
Oh, I'm
50.
betting
1,000.
1,000. So we're
that-
up
That's 50. That's
$13,000 on the season.
That sounds even spicier. Whew.
that's 53%.
We
Hey,
love that.
we're kicking Vegas' ass right now, boys.
Dave, introduce the games. We're going to talk over-unders first, and then we're going to go into the spreads. Introduce the games. Let Bryant and I tell the people what we're doing.
Yeah. So, Collin, first game right off the bat, we've got Curtis Rourke and Kurt Signetti against Notre Dame and Riley Leonard. Collin, tell us, what do we got for that game? I know you're a big Kurt Signetti fan, so I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Hey, so first we're talking over-unders, and in this football game, the over-under play that we are taking for you, the over-under is sitting at 52.5. We're going to buy the hook, make it 53, and we are going to take under 53 in the Indiana Notre Dame football game. Book it.
Woo! All right, Brian, I got a spicy one for you. SMU Penn State. Can the Mustangs prevail over the Nittany Lions?
Hey, we got, we've talked about this earlier. I think it's going to be a high flying game. Over under is at 54.5. Like Colin mentioned, always buy the hook. We're going to buy that down to 54. And we're going to take the over 54 SMU Penn State. Book it.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about, Brian. All right, Clemson versus Texas. I almost said Arch Manning versus Cade Klubnik, but not quite yet. Quinn Ewart versus Cade Klubnik. Collin, what do we got for that game for us?
Hey, we talked a little bit about how this football game, we don't love either team's offense. We don't love the red zone plays. We don't think that either team is clicking offensively on all cylinders. I think last week was kind of a fluke for Clemson. It's more of an outlier for me. We are going to take Clemson, Texas under 52. Book that shit.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about, baby. Let's make some more money. Tennessee, Ohio State. Brian, what do we got there on that game?
No, this is honestly a tough one to pick, but we thought, this is one of those games we think the top's going to get blown off. This is going to be one of those fun, electric playoff games that always seems to happen. We've seen in previous years where Georgia plays, who were they playing? I think it was Alabama. No, I can't remember, but it was on New Year's Eve, and it was like 52-48, that type of game. So the over-under is 46.5, very low. That's, honestly a very intriguing number. But we're going to buy the hook down to 46 and take the over here. We're going to book it, see how Tennessee and Ohio State fare there in the shoe.
Hey, looks good to me. And then now let's talk Indiana, Collin. Talk to me about Indiana and what are you betting in regards to Indiana? You believe it? I want to hear something impressive.
Hey, so coming back to the spreads here, we said we were going to talk over-unders first. Now to some spread conversation, what most people love. Indiana, Notre Dame, talked about this earlier. This is not really an away game. It is, but it's not. It's still in-state. It's a rival. Cannot wait for this football game. And Curtis Rourke, we trust. Indiana, +8. Book it.
Sheesh.
Hey, like I said earlier, always buy the hook. We're giving you
the hook, baby.
Buy the hook, make it +8 at 7.5.
All right. Well, speaking of big games, SMU. Talk to me about SMU, Brian. What is the spread for SMU?
It's sitting at 8.5 right now, which I think
with the hook.
It's at 9, but I haven't said what we're doing yet. I'm going to talk through it.
Okay, here we go. Hey, let me hear it.
Tune in here, Dave. Colin and I, especially Dave, not so much, really like SMU. We both think, and the show thinks here with our pick, we are picking SMU +9, buy that hook, and make it +9. We think SMU is going to fare well in this game. I think they're going to have a very dynamic offense. It's going to produce a lot of problems for Penn State, and be able to, stretch them out and run all over the field. So we're taking SMU +9, book it.
All right, there we go. That seems like a solid bet to me. But now let's talk about Texas. Do we got anything for Texas? Because we got to have something for Texas.
Well, to your point, Dave, we have to have something. This is a football game right here that we've talked about how we can see this going any direction. We've talked a lot about how we don't love either team, and I think this is a pretty big spread, but shocking play for everybody here. We are going to fade the hell out of the public, and that is what has talked us into this football game. Everybody's on Clemson's jock saying Clemson can make a run. I'm here to tell you, no, they can't. Texas, -12. Book it.
Hey, Texas all the way, baby. All right, and then the last matchup we're gonna talk spread about is Tennessee Ohio State. Who do we have for that spread, Bryant?
We talked about this game quite a bit here at the end. Very even matchup. I think the spread probably should have been a little bit closer. So it's at 7.5 right now. We're going to buy the hook and take Tennessee at +8. I think this game could still go either way. It's going to be a hard fought game. I really do think we are taking the over. So, we hope it's a high scoring game nonetheless. But I think Tennessee is prepared. I think the X factors we talked about in that game prevail for them. So we're going to take the big orange Vols going up to the shoe and taking one from Ohio State. Tennessee +8, book it.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. And you guys know, we've given you the facts, we've given you the numbers. Our book it segment is successful. You just got to follow it. You might not trust it at the beginning, but you just got to follow it.
Hey, we've been hot all season, man. 73 and 60. You can write home about that. I feel really good about this. We got 2 overs, 2 unders. We've got a favorite, some dogs. Hey, this has got a recipe all for 8-0 on the first weekend of the 12-team playoffs to go ahead and make this record 81 and 60. That would be real spicy if Bryant's slinging $1,000 units out here for the people. We would look real damn good, and I feel really good about it. So, fellas, that's going to do it all for us today. If you guys don't have anything to add, just want to say, man, college football season has been spectacular. I am so ready for this. I cannot wait. I hated what felt like the off week, even though there was some bowl games sprinkled in here. I am so ready for Friday night. I'm not moving from the couch. I'm not moving from the TV. You will find me here all weekend long. Fellas, anything to add before I take us out of here?
No, you covered it all, Collin. Again, we appreciate everyone that has stuck with us to this point from the beginning. If you start at the beginning, start midway. If this is your first one, hey, we got a lot of good stuff coming moving forward. The season, I mean, we're basically halfway through the football season. I know the regular season's ended, but there's a lot of good football still going. So tune in. We're gonna have a lot of good stuff. And Collin has
mentioned off seasons.
I will say, and Collin mentioned it before, even in the off season, we're going to continue keeping you guys updated with transfer portal news, everything going on in college football. We're going to let you know. We're going to keep you guys updated. But yeah, Collin, I'll shoot it over to you.
Bryant, you good?
I'm good. Like Dave mentioned, college is a revolving door, and it seems like always something's happening every hour, especially with the transfer portal now. But we still got a month of football to talk about. The national championship game is until January 20th, like we mentioned. So there's going to be some big games to talk about here in the next month. Transfer portal will still be firing on all cylinders. So bowl games we talked about as well too. Appreciate everybody that has followed us along since August. It's been a blast. This season has flown by, but we still have a lot of exciting games to look forward to, and to watch the first 12-team playoff champion be crowned. Cannot wait.
Hey, fellas, let's do this damn thing, man. It's been a pleasure. Follow us on X at DT_sports_, Facebook Deep Threat Sports Network, Instagram Deep Threat Sports with a Z, TikTok Deep Threat Sports Network, YouTube, Spotify at Deep Threat Sports. Make sure you're coming here to get all the facts, all the information. We are trying to bring you the best content we can. Once again, congratulations to Dave on the baby. Thank you, Bryant, for being so consistent. And I got a move going on, so hopefully the Wi-Fi holds up. Thank you, Elon, and the Starlink or whatever the hell it's called. My first time using it. Hopefully it worked out okay. But hey, fellas, until next time, we'll be back doing some game recap. Enjoy the weekend. I'll be in touch with you two fellas here soon to talk some more college football, and we'll be back with the latest and greatest. Until next time, that's Bryant, that's Dave, I'm Collin. Peace.